The problem with all this is we're trying to do forensics from outside the system. We don't have people inside saying, this is why they're hiding this is why they're hiding that. And even if we did, would we believe them? A lie is different at every level, and they have their set of lies that they're being told. So to really do this, you have to rely on the evidence itself. And then you have to rank that evidence in terms of the political realities of the entire culture in which you live, i.e. the United States, or the larger culture in which we live, which is the world. And when I look at the world, and I look at what's going on right now, the most intense fractional confrontations, the reasons for more bloodletting, more slaughter, more pain, more suffering, more conflict on this planet than any other, is the religious idea that my God is bigger than your God. In fact, your God isn't anything and you aren't anything either. And when you look at the presidential debates this year, what has come to the fore? Overwhelmingly, again and again and again, the religious background of the candidates. The Founding Fathers, that whirring sound you hear in the background is the Founding Fathers spinning in their graves because they tried to set up a political system where we separated politics from religion. Politics from our metaphysical ideas of who we are, what we are doing on this planet, who our creator is, etc., etc. And what we're seeing as the 21st century evolves, even in these first few years, is a blending and a fusion of religious perspectives with the body politic. And you just look at what the schism is now that is confronting everyone, which has given us the freedom, I'm using that in quotes, to create the patriot subversions of the Constitution, to create the NSA eavesdropping. It's all about religion. It's these bad guys, those nasty terrorist Muslims, the conflict of civilizations, that those people are out to basically ultimately kill all of us. You know, the only good Muslim is a dead Muslim, which of course is what the radicals on our side are saying, even though they claim that's not what they're saying. So we're living in a levels of illusion where at the base it's all about religious difference and religious intolerance and religious obsession that my God is the only God and you deserve to be killed because you don't believe in my God. Into that mix, you introduce the idea, a la Brookings, this official NASA report, that when NASA went out into space, it would logically find evidence of possibly more advanced beings. And it said in the charter, you know, on the moon, Mars, or Venus. Well, advanced beings would have to be created by somebody, right? Whose God would create them? Was it your God? Was it my God? So when you go to the moon, like what I have on the screen, and as part of the Apollo program, you find what appears to be the head of a robot, a sentient being created by something greater than humankind and lesser than the angels, etc., etc. And then you see that in our own fiction, in George Lucas's Star Wars, there is this stunning similarity in our popular cultural mythos. The question has to arise, who in NASA knew what when and were terrified to tell us because of the religious implications. Now, if you look at ruins on the moon, or you look at ruins on Mars, particularly if you have a mile-long face on Mars, mile plus or minus, and it looks like us. Remember, there's this key phrase in the Old Testament, God created man in his image. Oh, wait a minute. If that's true, then what is this mile-long face doing lying on Mars? Mars isn't mentioned in the Old Testament. Who were the Martians? Were they created in God's image? Is that God's image lying in the desert? In other words, you begin to get into such levels of discourse and such levels of potential controversy and conflict and people killing each other over their version of the truth that Brookings said in 1959, and John Kennedy gave it to Congress in 1960, on April 18th, that it's better to leave all of this alone, to not let anybody know about this, because all they'll do is kill each other over whose God is behind this new version of the truth. And I think, based on history, right on CNN right now, that that's the ultimate reason, which has been used as an excuse, incidentally. The lie is different at every level. It's the excuse based on some stuff going on in our culture that if in fact people were to know unequivocally that we're not the only conscious beings in the universe, the level of religious factionalism would rise to an hysteria, and we would literally dissolve in whatever conflagration you can imagine. And that a lot of good people, remember there are good guys and bad guys, a lot of good people are going along with this because in their minds, to quote, Nicholson, we can't handle the truth.
Okay, so NASA is out there to protect us from the truth because we can't handle the truth. The truth being,
but according to whom? Remember, it's always according to who's writing the script.
Okay, but what, according to what you're telling me,
I'm saying some good people in NASA believe that.
Okay, but
others believe other things.
You're saying this is the main reason for the secrecy.
I think it's the main reason they've been able to get so many people to go along with it for so long. Because remember, everybody wants to be a good guy.
Right.
Do you wake up in the morning thinking you're a bad guy? No. You think you're doing something positive.
That's
you're
because
advancing
I'm a good guy.
You're advancing humanity, doing these programs, putting it on the internet,
Yes.
You're trying to expose the truth because the truth will set you free. Well, what they have been told is the truth will kill you.
Exactly.
And
okay, so, but
they have believed it. That's the key pernicious thing here. They have ignored, in many cases, their own Bible, and they think by suppressing the truth, they're making us free.
Okay, but let's get to this truth. What you're telling me is the truth is that the ruins on the Mars and Moon indicate that we are not alone.
Oh, that's not the issue. The issue is, are we involved? Are they our ruins?
Are they?
I'm asking the question. Are they our ruins? Did the great-great-great-great-grandmothers of the human race, created in God's image,
right,
put that stuff there?
Well, if they are our ruins and they were created like us and they were us, our ancestors, whatever, then we don't have a religious problem because, hey, they're our ancestors.
Or if they're not, and they were created by super alien beings who made us as a laboratory experiment and put us here to do what we're doing, which is not very good, then those guys become God. We're eavesdropping, we're trespassing literally on God's territory as you define God, which is not the big guy that I've been thinking of all my life since I grew up reading the Catechism, but something lower than the angels that basically is as fallible and as human and as mortal as all of us, but has been someone playing God. Can you imagine?
Is this your premise, though? Are you investigating this?
Of course.
When you're looking at these ruins?
I'm investigating all of this.
Okay.
The problem is how. It's very hard. It's really, really hard because you can't trust people who would tell you the truth. You have to find the original sources. And ultimately, we've got to go to Mars or the Moon and find the libraries. But then, of course, it's like, who's going to read them? Who's going to translate them? How do we have checks on the translators? How do we know the translations won't be cooked? That they won't be faked to abide with certain creeds, affirm that certain gods are real, or a god, but the other guys are pretenders. You have to, this is not a simple labyrinth. This is down the rabbit hole, through the wormhole, out to the other universe, back through the white hole, into the other galaxy. It is not simple, which is why it has waited 40-some years for the beginnings of a ray of sunlight where people actually now finally, ultimately want to know the truth. And that gets back to the numbers and success of Dark Mission. Because ultimately, what has been pacing all this, what has allowed this suppression of the truth to continue unabated for